Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports Podcast. I'm the host of this podcast, Lane Frank. We are now on episode 197. Yes, sir, 197 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. We're going to break down how I, 16-year-old Lane Frank, helped land the former number one player in the country, Malachi Nelson, to come to UTEP through NIL, through a lot of things. Great process. You're going to want to see that segment later on this episode, how UTEP landed Malachi Nelson. We're going to talk a lot about the NFL, playoffs this week, college football. We got two semifinals games. We got the college basketball madness going on right now. We got a lot of great stuff in college basketball. It's a great episode. Stay tuned. Episode 197. Let's start off episode 197, how we always do, with our headlines in the NBA. First thing in the NBA, Zion Williamson is back, everybody. Yes, he's back from injury, and he had a show-stopping 360 dunk the other night that really just brought the whole entire house down. Really was crazy in his first game back to be doing 360, and that's a statement by Zion Williamson. He could have just taken the ball, done normal, boom, one-hand dunk, everybody like, oh, great dunk, Zion. No, he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to say, oh, I'm not just back. I'm back and I'm coming for more. I'm back and I'm healthy. I'm back and I'm doing 360s. I'm back and I'm not afraid. That's what he showed. Pelicans might be the worst team in the NBA, but Zion Williamson's going to help out with that cause. Great to have him back in the NBA, playing again. Is he on the trade market? I'm hearing some rumblings. Warriors, maybe? But Zion Williamson, good to be back in the NBA. Chris Middleton, everybody, coming off the bench now for the first time in his career. They're going to start Taurean Prince over Chris Middleton. Really crazy because Chris Middleton was a key piece in them winning the championship in 2021. Now they're saying, nope, Chris Middleton, time for you to go to the bench. Maybe a smart remove. I mean, they're playing pretty much better basketball right now after they won the NBA Cup, the Milwaukee Bucks. Things are looking a little bit better for the Bucks, but Chris Middleton will come off the bench for the foreseeable future with the Milwaukee Bucks. Bradley Beal also coming off the bench, probably the first time in his career, and Bradley Beal's an all-star. Bradley Beal's a guy who you trade many first-round picks for, and that's what the Suns did. They traded a bunch of first-round picks, a bunch of good players for Bradley Beal. They give up Chris Paul and the whole three-way team trade with the Warriors, the Wizards, and the Suns, and Bradley Beal went to the Suns in that trade. Bradley Beal's not playing great basketball. Everybody knows that. A lot of people probably thought it was injuries. Maybe his injuries have ruined his career a little bit. But Bradley Beal will come off the bench now. And when that trade happened, I mean, Bradley Beal's a great player, but Phoenix didn't seem like a good fit for him. They have Devin Booker. Bradley Beal and Devin Booker obviously play very similar play styles. It just didn't seem like a good spot for Bradley Beal. So is he on the trade market? Now that he's coming off the bench, we're just going to have to wait and see. That's about for all the news in the NBA. In the NFL, we had an action-packed week. And it started out on Saturday with the Cleveland Browns losing to the Baltimore Ravens, locking up the number 2 overall pick. What are they going to do with that number 2 overall pick? Are they going to take a quarterback and say goodbye to Sean Watson and your $250 million? Or are they going to go smart, maybe take Travis Hunter? Are they going to trade the pick, get a bunch of draft capital, get all the draft capital back that they got taken from them in that Houston Texans Deshaun Watson trade where they gave up so many first-round picks, which really propelled this Texans franchise to be a contender. They're in the playoffs right now. Browns have the number 2 pick, the second worst team in the league. Crazy how things work in the NFL. But the Browns, number 2 overall pick. The Bengals, they showed some fight at the end of the year. They really did. Joe Burrow had an MVP-like season, but it wasn't enough. This team got off to such a slow start. And I bet if you could take it back to week 1, the Patriots would rather lose that game to the Bengals, have number 1 overall pick, and the Bengals would, of course, want to win that, be in the playoffs. But NFL, that's not how things work. They lost that game week 1 to the Patriots, did come back to bite them a little bit. Bengals don't make the playoffs, 9-8. That's how they finish their season. And they get the number 18 overall pick. It's not a great overall pick. It's not a great first-round pick. But it's a first-round pick still. But tough right there for the Cincinnati Bengals. After a great offensive season they had, 9-8, and they're firing their defense coordinator. And I don't think it's on their defense coordinator, a guy who really could never keep players. The Bengals don't want to spend money on defensive players. He never got to keep his good players. They might have the defense player of the year in Trey Hendrickson. They don't have anybody else in that defense. They lost Jesse Bates over the years. They lost a bunch of guys, good guys, over the years. They've just not been able to keep guys, in my opinion. And that's why the Bengals won 9-8 this year. 9 wins for the offense, 8 losses for the defense. Really interesting stuff right there for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're out of the playoff race. Carolina Panthers, they had a big turnaround. Now, it wasn't always wins. It wasn't always close games, but they had a turnaround because Dave Canales, a guy who I was critical on, a guy who I made a preseason hot take on saying, this guy's nothing. This guy's not going to help out Bryce Young. This guy's going to do nothing. It seemed right for a little bit. But Dave Canales now, with Bryce Young, they're taking over. Bryce Young had a great end to the season. Whatever you want to say about it, he had a great end to the season. He beat the Giants, beat a few other teams, had a great game against the Falcons, and that's going to be a good rivalry. Michael Penix Jr. versus Bryce Young for years to come. They swapped talent, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, great rookie year. Bryce Young, bad rookie year. CJ Stroud, pretty good first half. They were 5-1. Bryce Young, I think they were 0-6. He got benched. CJ Stroud, he's 10-7. He's in the playoffs, but he hasn't been playing great. Bryce Young, he's on a roll. He's got some momentum going into next season. You love to see it out of the Carolina Panthers. The Tennessee Titans, they lost again, clinching up the number 1 overall pick, everybody. What are they going to do with that pick? They have Will Levis, a guy they took in the second round. It's not necessarily binding you take a quarterback in the second round, but this would be 2 straight quarterbacks now. Malik Willis and Will Levis, they took them in the NFL drafts, and they did nothing with them. Malik Willis got picked in round 3 in 2022. Will Levis, round 2 in 2023. Both guys have done nothing so far in their NFL careers. Now Malik Willis, decent backup for the Packers. And Will Levis didn't do much this year for the Titans. Tough right there. They have a number 1 overall pick. Are they going to take Shedeur Sanders? Are they going to take Cam Ward? They just fired their GM. Maybe he's not the issue. Maybe Brian Callahan, head coach, is the issue. That guy looked like a clown at the podium all year long for the Tennessee Titans. But yeah, Titans, number 1 overall pick. Patriots, they choked away the number 1 overall pick. And what they did with that was they fired Jerome Mayo, head coach. I feel bad for Jerome Mayo. This is really unheard of to be fired after your first year in the NFL. At least it used to be. I think the only time a head coach would be fired after their first season in the NFL, up until about a few years ago, was Hugh Jackson with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now you see it almost every year in the NFL where at least one first-year head coach gets the can. We're seeing it again right here. We saw it with Frank Reich last year. Tough for Jerome Mayo. Just got put in a tough spot. And his team improved from last year. They had the number 3 overall pick last year. They have the number 4 overall pick this year. Tough stuff right there from the New England Patriots. Jerome Mayo out. He could be a good defense coordinator, but not a good head coach yet. I think that's evident. That's what we saw. Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning head coach Doug Peterson, out as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Tough stuff right there. I think he's a good coach. I think Doug Peterson can be a great offense coordinator. It's just a mess in Jacksonville. This is another year where Jacksonville is going to have a top 5 pick, and they're just playing terrible football. New York Giants, everybody. My favorite team, New York Giants. Number 3 overall pick. And it's tough because New York Giants really had this number 1 pick locked up until Drew Lock decided to go, hey, maybe I'll be a New York Giants quarterback in the future and beat the Colts. And then they lost the next week. But no, Drew Lock had to ruin it for Giants fans. He's going to give them the number 3 overall pick after winning that game against the Colts. 1+ from this Giants season. Malik Neighbors, over 1,000 yards. Superstar in the making. You'll love to see it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had a great end of the year. Mike Evans gets another 1,000-yard season. He said, I'm going to the casino to celebrate. And you should do it. And they got a great showdown this week with the Washington Commanders in the playoffs. Denver Broncos, they showed out on Sunday against Kansas City Chiefs. That really showed everybody that Chiefs or maybe one-dimensional without Patrick Mahomes. Now, I know he wasn't the only one who sat out. Travis Kelce didn't play. Chris Jones didn't play. A few other guys didn't play. But to lose 38-0 really shows something to me. 38-0. That's a big loss. And the Broncos have a big game this week against the Bills. Bo Nix, what a rookie season for him. It's going to be a great showdown. Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels. Who wins Offensive Rookie of the Year? If you want to slide Brock Bowers in there too. Both these quarterbacks had great rookie campaigns. Most of the rookie quarterbacks had great campaigns. Michael Penix, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, the only one we didn't get to see in action. But Broncos, what a season they had. Seahawks, they were 10-7. They didn't make the playoffs. Tough stuff right there. I don't believe it. You can get 10 wins in the NFL and not make the playoffs. Maybe we need new reseeding system in the NFL. It's just tough to see, though, where a team can get 10 wins and not make the playoffs. Seahawks, sitting at 10-7. Tough season for them. Great season, it seems like, but also you're not making the playoffs. Jets, they had a nice one on Sunday over the Miami Dolphins. Really a cap on the season where it's like, okay, it was a really bad season, a really mediocre season. But Aaron Rodgers, in his last game ever probably, gets a win over the Miami Dolphins. And in that loss, Tyreek Hill said, oh, yeah, this is my last game as a Dolphin. I'm done. But then later in the week, they're saying, Tyreek didn't request a trade. He's staying with us. What's going on with Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins? A big storyline to watch out for this offseason. San Francisco 49ers, they had a tough loss on Sunday over the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of things went wrong for the Niners this season. The defense wasn't good. Sorensen was a bad defense coordinator. They fired him today. Jake Moody was a bad kicker, a guy who had a great start to the season, then got hurt. They took the scout the 99th overall pick. A lot of good players could take in there. They chose to take a kicker who they thought would be part of their franchise forever, and now he's probably going to get cut after year 2. Brock Purdy dealt with some injury issues. He also dealt with a lot of interception issues this year. Brock Purdy also didn't have a great season. That's why the 49ers aren't making the playoffs this year after 1 year removed from making the Super Bowl. Tough stuff right there for the San Francisco 49ers. Detroit Lions, everybody, they are the number 1 team in the NFC. 15-2. What a season for the Detroit Lions. They get the bye week this week. Antonio Pierce also out after 1 year as the full-time Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Of course, he was the interim last year, out after 1 season with the Raiders. That's about for all the news in the NFL. Swing things over to the MLB where we got a little bit of news. Hall of Fame or future Hall of Fame pitcher Justin Verlander signs with the San Francisco Giants. I don't get this move. Justin Verlander, you're a great pitcher. You've had a great career. You're on a complete decline now. Complete decline. It's time to hang it up, buddy. I think you should have hung it up after you won the World Series in 2022 with the Astros, but you didn't. So Justin Verlander headed over to the San Francisco Giants. Now, their crosstown rivals, Oakland Athletics, they're deciding to spend some money, everybody. Spending some money on Brent Rooker, one of the best hitters in MLB. They're keeping him in Oakland or wherever they're going to be for the next 2 years. Sacramento, then Vegas. Athletics, keep on to Brent Rooker. And that's about for the headlines this week. All right, everybody, let's do Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. We got 6 games this week, all playoff games, all wildcard round games. Love this expanded playoffs. Maybe we have a few more teams in there, but leave that for another time. We got 6 NFL playoff games to pick right now. Let's hop into it. Chargers versus the Texans. Another year of the Texans getting the 3:30 slot on a Saturday for their playoff games. Happens almost every year. They're in the playoffs. I think every year they've been in the playoffs as a franchise. They've had the Saturday 3:30 kickoff, but they're playing Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, whatever you want to say. This team has so many Michigan players, so many Ohio State players. They're the Big Ten Chargers, and they've had a great season. Justin Herbert, he's going to show out in this one. Take down C.J. Stroud, who's really struggled so far in the second half of the season. Chargers over the Texans. Steelers versus the Ravens. Let's go with the Ravens in this one. The Steelers really had a nice kickstart back up after they put Russell Wilson back in. They had a good start this season with Justin Fields. Then they made the move to Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's done a great job at times, but they struggled the past few weeks. They're 10-7. Ravens, one of the best teams in the NFL. They get the win over the Steelers. Broncos versus the Bills. Bo Nix, great rookie season. Everybody wants that. Let's give Bo Nix his props. He's had a great rookie season. This defense has also had a great season for the Broncos, but none of that's going to matter here because Josh Allen is on a mission to get to his first Super Bowl, to get that first Super Bowl ring, and nothing's going to stand in his way. Denver Broncos surely will not. Bills over the Broncos in this one. Packers versus the Eagles. This is a tough matchup. The Packers are a really, really good team, obviously, but they were in the best division of football, and they finished third in that division, so they get to play the best team in the wildcard round, the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley on a week's rest. Jalen Hurts, we don't even know if he's going to play in this one because he's been in concussion protocol. I'm actually going to throw an upset in there. I'm switching what's on my paper. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers over the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's going to be a bunch of questions this offseason about the Eagles, the way they managed Jalen Hurts' injury, the way they managed Saquon Barkley's workload. And for the Packers, a great football team that unfortunately was in the best division of football. Move on to the divisional round. Josh Jacobs runs all over this Eagles defense. Jordan Love makes the Eagles question themselves this offseason. Jordan Love into the divisional round with the Packers. Commanders versus the Buccaneers. It's a good matchup. We saw it earlier on in the year. Commanders ended up losing that one to the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield's on a tear. He's on a mission, and I think they get the job done right here, everybody. I don't love rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs, and I don't think it's going to work out right here with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is going to get shut down by this Buccaneers defense. Didn't play much last week. Maybe a little bit of a slump right here. Marcus Mariota, he's going to try to coach Jaden Daniels up a little bit because he's started a playoff game before as a starting quarterback. Now he's the backup for the Commanders, but they don't get it done. Buccaneers over the Commanders there, everybody. Vikings versus the Rams, the last playoff game. A Monday Night Football playoff game out in LA. And this is an interesting matchup because the Vikings, they went down to LA this season and they lost that game. But the Rams don't have a great offense. They've been putting up, 18 points, 19 points, 9 points, 12 points all season long, it seems like. But they win because they have a really good defense. But this Vikings team, they were 14-3. Sam Darnold played his worst game of the season last week against the Detroit Lions. But he had a good game the week before against Packers. If Sam Darnold can play well, they win this game. I think they shut down this Rams defense, and I think they get the win. Vikings over the Rams. It's a great playoff game. They move on to the divisional round. And that's about Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day, my playoff picks. Now, top 5. This week's top 5 is the top 5 NFL coaching candidates for this offseason coaching carousel, everybody. You might be shocked with some of my picks on here, but here are the top 5 guys I want to have as my head coach if I had vacancy this offseason. We're 5, a little oddball, a guy from college, Steve Sarkisian there, everybody. He's a guy who was the offense coordinator for the Falcons in 2017 after Kyle Shanahan left after their Super Bowl run. He went over to the 49ers. Steve Sarkisian left Bama, went to the NFL. He was actually up for some NFL head coaching jobs the season after that, but he didn't get them. Steve Sarkisian, he maybe doesn't love the landscape of college football with NIL, even though he's got a bunch of NIL at Texas, could love it there. But if they don't win the championship this year, he might want to leave Texas. Number 5, Steve Sarkisian could be a candidate for an NFL job this year. Number 4, Brian Flores. Say what you want about Brian Flores. Maybe he's a tough guy. Maybe he makes the players a little bit more upset. But he's going to inspire the guys. He's going to have a good defense. He's had a good defense everywhere he's gone. He's had a good team everywhere he's gone. Maybe he's just not the best to deal with a rookie quarterback. 4, Brian Flores. 3, Ben Johnson. This might be a little bit crazy because Ben Johnson's a really good coach, you could say. But is he a great motivator? I've actually never heard this guy say a word. I don't know if he's vocal. I don't know if he's just the brains. Maybe he's LeBron. Maybe he's a tough guy. Maybe he's not just X's and O's. Maybe he's that Dan Campbell type of guy. But also, what I see out of Ben Johnson is a guy who can run the X's and O's, a guy who can run a good system, but I don't know if he can lead a football team. 3, Ben Johnson, still a good candidate. 2, Mike Vrabel. This guy's been to the playoffs. This guy's been to a championship game before. This guy is a great head coach who should never have been fired by the Titans, but there's a hidden gem in this coaching carousel, and it's Mike Vrabel. 2, Mike Vrabel. 1, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is the top candidate for this Eddie head coaching position, in my opinion. A guy who has won a Super Bowl. A guy who has been to a Super Bowl twice. A guy who has really coached up a great quarterback in Russell Wilson. A guy who has built defenses everywhere he's gone. A guy who won national championships in college. A guy you want as your head coach. He's old. He's 72. But he's going to be a great head coach for about 5 years for you. And then he'll be done with coaching. Then you move on to your next guy. But if you want to win quick and fast, Pete Carroll might just be your guy. And he wants that Chicago Bears job. 1, Pete Carroll. And that's about top 5 candidates for the head coaching jobs this offseason. That's about top 5 this week. Now, did you know? This week's Did You Know is every head coach, the college ball playoff semifinals is fighting for their first ever national championship. We will have a new head coach for the championship after the season. Did you know that? Leave it down in the comments. That's about for Did You Know this week. So if you've watched this show over the past 5 years we've done this show, from 2020 to now we're in 2025, you would know I'm a huge college football fan. I love college football, and I've always been a diehard Michigan football fan. I live in El Paso, where UTEP is located, an FBS school, a college football program in Conference USA that really hasn't had much success in the past few years, really much success ever in their college ball history. I wasn't always a huge UTEP football fan. I really wasn't. I never kept up with that much. I was always just the Michigan guy. I loved watching Michigan, really no involvement ever with UTEP. But when UTEP hired a head coach, Scotty Walden, who I had no idea who he was an FCS head coach, came from Austin Peay, didn't know much about him. Scotty Walden, just a young guy, one of the youngest head coaches in college football behind like Kenny Dillingham over at Arizona State and the Utah State head coach, Nate Darnell. I was interested about it. And I got an interview with him the week he got hired. I was hosting the ESPN 600 radio show that week, 3-hour show. I was like, let's get this guy on. So he came on the show, and I loved his energy. I loved everything he was about. He was talking about OKGs. That means our kind of guys. He was talking about how he's going to build up a great program at UTEP. And it kind of got me excited for college football here in El Paso. He also had the best recruiting class in UTEP history, best recruiting class in Conference USA that year, after only having 1 month to work for it. He did it again this year in 2025. Scotty Walden has done a great job with his UTEP football program so far, and there weren't exactly so many wins in the field this year, only about 4, but they're trending up. They're trending up in college football. So when I had the opportunity to join the UTEP NIL Advisory Board, the Gold Mine Collective, collectives are obviously taking over college football. And if you've watched this show before, you know I'm very critical of collectives. The way things went down, Jaden Rashad at Florida, he's now suing that collective. The way things go down with collectives, I wasn't always a big fan of it. I didn't think that's what NIL was meant for. But being on the Gold Mine Collective for UTEP football has really brought a new perspective for me for college football and NIL, especially for UTEP football. So it was exciting. And I was like, watch college football. Okay, maybe here's some guys, But the big thing in college football that, of course, you need is a quarterback. UTEP's quarterback this year, they did a good job. Maybe there's room for improvement. And when I saw that, Malachi Nelson, a guy who I've studied for so long in college football, a guy I've known about forever in college football, from the night he decommitted from Oklahoma, went to USC, from the night he went from USC to Boise State, and when he entered Boise State, didn't get the starting job, I was shocked. I mean, I did a segment on this guy in August saying he was the hidden gem of college football, and now Boise State would have a good year because of Malachi Nelson. I didn't even mention Ashton Jeanty. I don't even know if I knew who Ashton Jeanty was. He didn't even get the starting job, Malachi Nelson, at Boise State. Max Munson won it. He did a really good year. Led them to the college football playoff. So maybe it's just, unfortunate timing for Malachi Nelson. He sat behind a Heisman winner in Caleb Williams, who ended up being number 1 overall pick. He sat behind a college football playoff leading quarterback in Max Matson, who obviously led them to the Fiesta Bowl. They had a great season. They won the Mountain West. So when this guy entered the portal, I said, this guy's never taken a real college football snap. He's the number 1 recruit in the country in 2023, ranked above guys like Arch Manning, ranked above guys like Nico Imaleva, ranked above quarterbacks like Dante Moore, who's going to have a great year in Oregon next year. It was intriguing to me. I thought maybe, not a lot of Power 5 programs are going to go after this guy. He's headed to the group of 5. So I know, I made some calls. And then I ended up talking to Coach Walden about it. And we talked about it and we said, okay, Malachi Nelson, this is a guy who could be huge at UTEP. Malachi Nelson ended up taking a visit to UTEP, loved it, and ended up coming to UTEP. He committed the other day. It's going to be huge for this program. A guy who I've watched since 2021, whatever it might be, from when he was at Oklahoma, committed to Oklahoma, left to go to USC with Lincoln Riley, and now he's coming to UTEP. It all comes to fruition. I don't know if this happens. It's not every day you can say that you're a 16-year-old and you help land the former number 1 player in the country to come to a group of 5 program. And UTEP, they're on the up. They're coming to the Mountain West in the next few years, and they're the hidden gem of college football. I call Malachi Nelson the hidden gem of college football in August. I'm calling UTEP the hidden gem of college football in January. This Sun Bowl Stadium is incredible. It's one of the best stadiums in the country, especially at night games, in the mountain. It's a great city, El Paso. It's interesting how UTEP can do when they have a good quarterback, when they have a good coach. Scotty Walden and Malachi Nelson is going to be a great tandem for years to come. I'm maybe UTEP's Dave Portnoy, you could say. Dave Portnoy helped Michigan land Bryce Underwood, and that was a great thing for them, getting Bryce Underwood. Dave Portnoy obviously helped out with Larry Ellison, a few other guys, to land Bryce Underwood at Michigan. Maybe I'm helping out now to land Malachi Nelson at UTEP. He had bigger offers on the table. I'll say that. Bigger offers. I'm not going to say bigger programs, but bigger offers on the table. Chose to come to UTEP. It's a testament to Scotty Walden, to the staff, to this collective, these great people I work with in the collective. Really excited for the future of UTEP football. Getting the former #1 overall player in the country, Malachi Nelson. We hope to do some things with him here at Schoolyard Sports. Maybe some NIL deals, maybe some show appearances. A lot of great stuff to come from Malachi Nelson and UTEP, and more to come on Schoolyard Sports Lane Frank, episode 197. Let's keep things in college sports, everybody. Let's do college basketball madness. We had a great night of college basketball last night. We've had a great week of college basketball, and really halfway through the season, 30 games in the regular season, we're about 15 through. It's good when teams like Michigan are good. It's good when teams like Duke are good, and we have all that this season. Not just saying that because those are my two favorite teams, maybe. But let's hop into this. College basketball madness. Let's break down some of the top headlines in college basketball. Michigan basketball went to LA. They beat USC and UCLA. I went to that USC-Michigan game. I saw this Michigan team in person. I watch them every game on TV, but seeing them in person, the way they play, the way Danny Wolf just swings the ball to Vlad Gordon. You don't see many 7-footers playing together. They have 2 on the court, sometimes even 3 with Will Cheddar if you're going to be generous and give him 7 feet. But this is a great Michigan basketball team. Their offense, when they go out, Danny Wolf and Vlad Gordon or Trey Donaldson can hit the 3. Sam Walters can hit the 3. Namari Burnett can hit the 3. Justin Pippen, son of Scottie Pippen, he can hit the 3. Will Cheddar can hit the 3. Everybody in this team can make shots, but the defense can struggle at times. But I still think this Michigan basketball team has a great trajectory. They all have nicknames. Obviously, Danny Wolf has done a great job this year for Michigan. You call him the Wolf of State Street in Michigan. So Danny Wolf's done a great job for Michigan. Coming over from Yale, Vlad Golden coming over from FAU, Trey Donaldson coming over from Auburn, Namari Burnett coming over from Texas Tech and Alabama, was at Michigan last year, and he's just been a great returner for Michigan this year. Has done a great job at the shooting guard position, starting almost every game. Namari Burnett in Michigan, they're taking off, and Dusty May, what a job he's done with this Michigan basketball team. In year 1, like I said, not many times you can make that West Coast trip and win both those games. And in pretty convincing fashion, both those games, Michigan won by 10 against USC. Michigan won by 19 against UCLA. The main flaw of this team is they'll get a big lead. They'll give up that lead. And then they can maybe get a big lead again. Tough thing about the Arkansas, Wake Forest, and Oklahoma games was they got the big lead. They gave it up, and they couldn't get it back again. That's why they lost those 3 games by combined 5 points. Michigan basketball, still a really good team, in my opinion. Definitely top 15 in the country. Another hot take I got for you right here. The Mountain West is a better conference than the ACC this year. Yes, the Mountain West is better than the ACC. I don't see a real contender in the ACC outside of Duke. Maybe Clemson, who beat Kentucky, 12-4 Clemson. But North Carolina, they're struggling. Louisville, 11-5, they're struggling. Duke is the only real contender I see out of the ACC this year. Next one, college basketball is better when Georgetown is good. Georgetown is a great college basketball program. So much rich tradition with Georgetown. And I just think college basketball is better when Georgetown is good. They're having a great year. Ed Cooley, they almost beat Marquette the other night. That would have been a great upset for them. But for the Big East, for Georgetown to be good, it's good with college basketball. It's good for college basketball when Georgetown basketball is solid, everybody. We're seeing that right now. Ed Cooley at the helm for the Hoyas. Next one, LA basketball is dead. That's what I saw this weekend. Saw USC and UCLA play, and I just thought, yeah, LA basketball seems dead. Eric Musselman, who took the job from Arkansas to go over to USC, thinks that he's going to have a great time at USC. Okay, maybe gets a few good players. Maybe gets some more NIL money at USC. No real fans. I was at that game. There were Go Blue chants at every single part of that game, it seemed like. 0, go Trojans, go Trojans. No, Michigan took over that stadium. For UCLA, Mick Cronin, UCLA head coach, he went crazy saying, my guys just don't care. They don't care about basketball. They're delusional. They think they're better than they are. And that's why we're not winning games. LA basketball is dead for USC and UCLA, and this weekend showed it for me, in my opinion. Michigan basketball may have ended LA basketball. LA basketball looked dead to me, in my opinion. USC and UCLA just didn't play well, not having great seasons. UCLA, I mean, they had a good start. They've lost to Nebraska. They've lost to Michigan. How are these teams going to adjust to the Big Ten? They're struggling right now, in my opinion, and that's just going to continue happening. Eric Musselman's a good head coach. But how does he respond? had a great job at Arkansas in the SEC. I disagree now with him taking that job at USC. It looked rough on Saturday night against Michigan. It's going to look rough again for the rest of the season for USC. Next one, Texas basketball needs a fix. I love Rodney Terry. I've interviewed him many times. He's a great head coach. He was the head coach here at UTEP. I know Rodney Terry. But I think they're struggling because he's had so much NIL money at Texas, and they're still struggling. You play a game against number 2 Auburn. You go down 20 points. You come back. You lose by 5. Okay, that's improving. That's better. You made the comeback. But if you're a Texas fan, I'm saying, why aren't we the number 2 team? Why can't we be that good? Why can't we be the one up 20 points? Something to think about. Rodney Terry needs a few things to think about this season because he had a great run in 2023. He made the Final Four, made the Elite 8, with Texas, lost to Miami. Maybe if they had Dylan Dessou in that game, they could have won that game, made the Final Four. Didn't happen. Texas needs some things to think about, everybody. They lost again on Saturday to Texas A&M before that Auburn game. They lost them by 20 points. They're probably going to lose to Oklahoma this season, who's having a great year. Texas, interesting stuff going on with them right now. They need a fix, in my opinion. I don't know if Rodney Terry's the problem. Maybe some other things are the problem. I think Rodney Terry's a good head coach, but they need a fix. They need to be that top team with the money they have at Texas. Next one and the last one, Memphis basketball is back there, buddy. Penny Hardaway, he got away from his high-flying 5-star recruits, and he dipped into the transfer portal and got PJ Haggerty, who's done a great job for them. He's one of the best players in the country, got from Tulsa, averaging about 22 points per game. PJ Haggerty putting Memphis basketball back on the map. Good to see you right there. That's about for my college basketball madness of the week. Breaking down some of the top headlines in college basketball and giving my takes on them too. Now, College Ball Showcase. This week's College Ball Showcase, we're going to break down the 2 playoff semifinal games, everybody. Let's hop into it. Let's do the first one. Notre Dame versus Penn State. Who's moving on to their first national championship of the college ball playoff era? Notre Dame's been in this spot before. They've been in this spot 2 times in the college ball playoff era. 2018 against Clemson and 2020 against Alabama. And both times, they got slaughtered in both games. What's going to happen this time? Are they going to win? Or are they going to get destroyed? I think it's going to be a really close game. I think Notre Dame with Jeremiah Love, a banged-up running back, is going to be a big issue for them. But for Penn State, I just don't know if they can do it. I don't see Penn State win big games at all this year. I know they almost beat Ohio State. They beat SMU. How good was SMU, really? They beat Boise State. But Boise State was from the group of 5. Does Penn State have a huge convincing win on their schedule this year? I don't think so. I don't know if that matters here, though. I think Penn State gets the job done over Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love, they've had great seasons. But that running game is going to dip off so much right now without Jeremiah Love. Riley Leonard gets to use his legs when Jeremiah Love explodes. Because Jeremiah Love, when he runs the ball well, it opens up the running game for Riley Leonard and opens up the passing game. You watch that Georgia game. Notre Dame had 17 points in about 30 seconds, and they didn't score the rest of the game. They won that game still, but they didn't score outside of those 30 seconds. They got the touchdown, they got the fumble, they got the field goal, and then they got the kick return touchdown at halftime. And that was about it for the Notre Dame scoring. Yes, they won that game. Yes, they beat Georgia. Georgia has Carson Beck. They win that game convincingly, in my opinion. Gunnar Stockton, moment was too big for him. First career start, just couldn't get it done. It's tough. Your first career starts in the Sugar Bowl, in the College Ball Playoff quarterfinals, you're going to struggle. But for Carson Beck, if he had played in this one, Georgia would have won that game. Notre Dame loses this one to Penn State. Penn State, Drew Aller. This is a guy who can go to the NFL still. I know he says he's coming back, but it'd be a shocker to me if Drew Aller makes the national championship and doesn't want to go to the NFL. He's a Cleveland kid. Cleveland might need a quarterback. Drew Aller, maybe the best quarterback in this year's draft if you were to declare. Drew Aller advances to the national championship with Penn State. James Franklin into the national championship. Now we got Texas versus Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Home game for Texas in Dallas. There's going to be a bunch of Texas fans there. Watch this. I was at the Dallas airport the other day. There were a bunch of Buckeyes there. It was rat infested. All the Buckeyes. But maybe a little more split of a crowd here. Ohio State and Texas than you think. Could play a factor. Ohio State's Will Howard has done a great job since that Michigan game. You watch the Tennessee game, he's throwing great passes to Jeremiah Smith. He's throwing great passes to Emeka Egbuka, Cornell Tate, everybody in the field. That Rose Bowl game was like, what? 34-0 with 8 minutes left in the second quarter. It was shocking. Ridiculous. You never expected it. Maybe Oregon wasn't as good as we thought. Maybe Oregon got lucky in their first matchup against Ohio State off that weird Jeremiah Smith offensive pass interference in the last 2 seconds of that game. Maybe that happened. Maybe Oregon was just completely overmatched. Maybe Ohio State isn't that good of a team. Ohio State was completely overmatched against Michigan. That's why Michigan won that game as a bad football team. Well, Michigan beat that game against Alabama, and they beat Ohio State, finishing the year 8-5. So I'm not going to say that. But I watched this Texas team in person. This Texas team destroyed Michigan. Michigan had a really good defense this year. But Texas ran all over them. Texas had great plays. They had Jaden Blue, who's still healthy. They had Quinton Wisner, who wasn't even fully exploded then. They had Quinn Ewers, who was making great plays all across the field. This Ohio State defense, they're going to get challenged here. Texas isn't just going to take what the defense gives them. I know they did that a little bit against Arizona State, and they gave up that lead against Arizona State, which was a great classic college football playoff game. But when the moment got real big, Quinn Ewers showed up. He got that 4th and 13 touchdown. He won that game for Texas. That's what happened. They don't win this game without Quinn Ewers. I've been very critical of Quinn Ewers in this show. I said they should have started Arch Manning. Maybe that game would have been over before they started Arch Manning. But it doesn't matter because Quinn Ewers got the win. Quinn Ewers got the job done. He's playing his former team, Ohio State, here. Ohio State Jack Sawyer, he wants to sack his former roommate Quinn Ewers so much. JT Tuamau, he doesn't want this to be his last college ball playoff game. He doesn't want this to be his last collegiate game ever. He wants to win national championship. But so does Quinn Ewers. And I think Texas gets the job done over Ohio State. Again, I watched the Texas team, and I thought they were the best team in the country after they beat Michigan. And they still are, everybody. Texas over Ohio State. We're going to have a Texas-Penn State college ball playoff national championship. You're just going to have to stay tuned for that pick coming up next week. And that's about my college football playoff segment, everybody. Now, at the buzzer, this week's at the buzzer, is bowl season dead, everybody? That's my question to you. Is bowl season dead? Obviously, the college football playoff is all in New Year's 6 bowl games now, so now we have all the other bowl games. You might think, I didn't watch that many bowl games this year. Maybe for, if you're a sports bettor, you staying up all night watching these fun little bowl games between Toledo and Northern Illinois. 2 MAC teams going at it in the Reliant Quest or whatever bowl it might be, in the Bahamas Bowl. Or maybe you're watching Sun Belt games versus MAC games and whatever, the Tax Slayer Bowl. Weird bowl games we had this year. But I'm hearing some chatter that maybe some of these little bowl games, like the Bahamas Bowl, like the Tax Slayer Bowl, maybe like another bowl game, might be moved to week 1. You have a neutral site game. Maybe you put up a MAC team versus a Sun Belt team in week 1 in Bahamas, and that's your bowl game for the year. Because bowl games don't have as much value as they used to. With the opt-outs, with everything else going on, with the transfer portal, I think these bowl games might get the best out of it if they move them to week 1. That's about for my At the Buzz this week. Is bowl season dead? Leave your answer in the comments. Now, question day. This week's question day is it wrong to fire a head coach after 1 year in the NFL? It used to be unheard of. Now we see it every year. But is it wrong to fire a head coach after 1 year in the NFL? That's Bob for question day. That's Bob for Squared Sports with Lane Frick, episode 197. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Squared Sports Instagram at Squared Sports. Follow Squared Sports X at Squared Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back next week, episode 198. Stay tuned.